How have we been doing this for over 90 episodes and never had a college confession board? Well, I found this on r/niceguys. I know I shouldn't eavesdrop, but it's hard to not when people are talking all around you. I hear so many women talk about how they want a man who doesn't play games or is straightforward about when they want something and continue to talk about the problems with the asshole guy they're seeing. Ladies, get yourself a funny, nerdy computer science major and stop going for guys who will treat you badly. Trust me, the nerdy guys won't play games with you unless it's like Dungeons and Dragons. Straight from the horse's mouth, and I think I'd rather get kicked in the chest by an actual horse than play any Dungeons and Dragons games with someone who talks like this. So this happened a few years ago when 5th edition first came out. Bit of background, all the players were fairly experienced with TTRPGs, but the DM and the Jumpy Paladin were both fresh out of 3.5 and still getting used to the new alignment system. Fairly standard D&D setup. Group of mercenary heroes who meet in a tavern for a quest. Oldie, but goldie. I talked with the DM before the game to make my concept fit before the first session. This is before the session 0 became commonplace. Now, I wanted to play a rogue assassin character. Okay, but this is a good/neutral party, said the DM. That's fine. I wanted to play a lawful good assassin. My idea was he worked for one of the major churches as a problem solver. If there was an evil being that couldn't be disposed of by any other means, he was sent to eliminate them as efficiently as possible. Does that work for you? No, all assassins have to be evil. They changed that for 5th edition, so it's possible to be a good assassin now. I can change it to neutral if good is too much of a stretch. No, assassins have to be evil. They kill people for money. Aren't we a mercenary company? We're gonna be killing people for money anyway? Yeah, well, it's stupid, but anyway, assassins are evil. Okay, I can just play another character. I've got backups. No, it's your character, so play what you want. It could be fun for the party. He just has to be evil. Just don't make him a murder hobo. I wasn't planning to. Yeah, because edgy murder hobo rogues are so cliche. I was going to be lawful. Good, because last game we had a chaotic evil rogue, and he completely screwed the party. Wasn't that your character? Oh yeah. So anyway, lawful evil assassin. So killing evil so good people don't get their hands dirty? On the side of right, but doing bad things? Yeah, that's evil. Okay. Short time later, I have a chat with the Jumpy Paladin. I say Jumpy because he gets very nervous about inter-party conflict, and I want to clear the air and make sure he's cool with my rogue assassin. Yeah, can't play that. I'm a paladin. I'll lose my power if I'm in a party with an evil character. They changed that in 5th edition, mate. Look, I just don't want fighting in the group. I thought so, so I was thinking maybe our characters could, have a history? We work for the same god or something. I wrote my backstory already. Okay. I don't want to change it. Fine, we haven't met, but I'm just letting you know so that we don't do any PvP. He's evil because he has to be, and he will be a good team player and support the party goals. Well, that sounds okay then. First session rolls around, and the party meet in a tavern. Paladin meets a few characters, one of whom is a lawful good Pact of the Fiend warlock, who is a tiefling. But assassins are still evil everywhere. Fine, sure, I like the concept, and it did make sense. No issues, everyone's getting along. My character rocks up. I say, greetings friends, I have traveled long and far to meet you here. My name is I cast Detect Evil, said Jumpy the Paladin. What? Why? I'm suspicious of your character. I just walked in. Yeah, but dark elves are usually evil. I'm literally playing a human. Oh, well, I cast it now. Do I know he's evil? DM interjects now and says, oh yeah, he's evil. Look, I'm lawful evil. Well, I smite him. Dude, Paladin, what the hell? I'm a good character. It's what my character would do. The DM is endlessly helpful and says, sounds good. Roll initiative. During the ensuing fight, my character does everything he can to calm Jumpy down while getting the crap kicked out of him. When that doesn't work, I try and retreat. And when Jumpy stops me, I attack him, non-lethally to just subdue him. My character actually escaped. Afterwards, I overhear Jumpy complaining about how my character doesn't fit into the party and how I'm clearly playing a chaotic, backstabbing rogue character because I attacked him. At that point, I threw in the towel, and then retired my character and didn't bother rolling up another one. Apparently my character became a villainous NPC in the end, actively working to destroy the party and acting like a fantasy version of the Joker? That group still got funny about me playing a rogue for years after because of this. TLDR, I make a good assassin character, DM changes it to evil, and then everyone complains about how the character is evil. Okay, I am now definitely making that video on rogues. I have no idea what's going on with people hating on rogues, but I've liked rogues for a while, and I keep on seeing DMs and RPG horror stories, nerfing rogues, banning rogues, and now insinuating that the party should kill the rogue. Great stuff. Now I understand the dislike or aversion towards evil characters in a good party. It's hard to do. I talked with Whistle about this in a podcast a while back, but it takes a lot of tact to make an evil character in a good party work. It can work. Don't get me wrong. It can absolutely create a very interesting dynamic, but you need a lot of experience, a lot of trust. It's hard. So I understand if a DM doesn't want to have an evil character in their campaign. I don't have evil characters in my games. But like, tricking somebody into playing an evil character just to screw them over makes no sense for me. It just seems like the party here didn't care about the rogue player having a good time. It was just a laughing stock. It was like a group-wide version of the instigator against one person, which, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. That's just bullying. Don't do that. It's really crappy. I was 22 years old when I experienced my first D&D campaign. I've always been into the fantasy genre and was intrigued by what a role-playing experience would be like. I had 3 online friends who decided to give 5e a try, and it was very enjoyable. However, due to scheduling conflicts, we never got to play much and stopped after only 5 sessions. A year later, I joined a D&D Discord to look for a campaign and found an interesting one. I was a bit nervous to play with a group of strangers, but was excited to meet new people, and, more importantly, play D&D again. The DM said that there was an opening, and I was invited into a separate group chat. Here's where the red flags began. Organization was a mess. The campaign was promised to be for 20-plus-year-olds, but there was an added teenager to the group. He was 16, 17-ish. We were friendly and welcoming, as there are mature teenagers out there, but this was not one of them. He sent lots of NSFW images into the Discord, spammed private messages to us for our character and story stuff, and much more. But he's a whole other story. We did bring this up to the DM, and he just said, deal with it. I told him he can join, so I can't back out my words. And would just laugh at the NSFW images, knowing how it made some of us uncomfortable. So he's already lying about the original eligibility of the group, and lacks empathy for all the group members. Red flag number 1. Our first session also kept getting delayed. The DM apparently doesn't have a job, so he needs to ask his girlfriend for money to buy a laptop to play the game. Unnecessary detail, but that was red flag number 2, showing how unprepared he was. However, all of us were understanding, as in real life, things like that can be stressful. Our first session finally began a few weeks later. I reused my first ever character, a tiefling barbarian lady with very tanky stats. There were 6 of us in total, including the DM. I was the only female in the group. First thing, right off the bat, when I introduced myself, the DM actually said, "Dang, now that we're in a voice call together, it's way more obvious. You're the only female, surrounded by dicks. Welcome to the Sausage Fest, right, fellas?" Oh, it's gonna be one of those. Great. Seeing as how he was trying to tell a joke, I let it slide, as I didn't want any awkwardness at the start of the session. But who the hell says that? No one else in the group, except the literal child, laughed along with his joke, and we moved on quickly. But let's just say that the start of the session was already setting off a very ominous feeling for me. The game starts with us arriving at a town and meeting at a tavern. All of the other members were so kind. We eventually grouped up and were heading out to the first quest, defeat some bandits. As we travel to the bandits' hideout, we start to develop a plan. The DM interrupts us at this time to provide an idea of his own. He says,
"Why don't you guys just have, Riss run up into the open fields? You know, like, OMG, I'm just a damsel who's so lonely out here."
We were at a loss for words at his interruption and plan. Luckily, one member eventually spoke up and said, "Dude, she's literally our strongest member and the most menacing character within the group. Why would that even work?" And the DMs just said,
Well, 'cause guys are horny.
I simply said, "No, we are not doing that," but in my mind, I was already done. There's more awful occurrences during this time, but we'll touch on that later. The D&D session ended about an hour or two later after we fought the bandits. Throughout the fight, I would be attacked due to the reason that I was the female and the bandits would want to kidnap me, which all of us began to be more vocal against. He would just roll his eyes and say, "Whatever." He also rushed the fight because his smoking hot girlfriend would be there soon, and he needs the game to end. Keep in mind, he was in his 30s and was the oldest member in the group, yet he acted probably the most childish of all of us, equivalent or less than the literal child. Looping back to the occurrences I mentioned, the DEM called the members slurs. He was also eating and slurping as he narrates, which was probably one of the most disgusting things I heard to this day and still brings back bad memories. Granted to say, multiple members and myself left after that one day. The DM's response was just,
"Okay, y'all just don't get my humor."
as he kicked all of us out of the group chat. I have not been playing much D&D since then, but I'm hoping to find a close group of friends to try again. Look, D&D is a game. It's meant to be played for fun, and it's no fun getting typecasted into roles that you don't want to play, especially if said roles are demeaning. As for the DM putting forward a plan, I will only put forward small ideas if my party are struggling hard and just can't come up with anything. That is the only time. If you interrupt your party while they're planning, they're gonna think that you have total control of the game and are trying to railroad them, which is no fun. It's not great having your plan get deflated by the DM. The DM can guide. Matt Colville has a whole video about this because, frankly, sometimes the party will come up with a plan and it's not very good. But as the DM, you shouldn't be trying to shoot down plans, even if you think they're not the best. You should be helping the party to build them up. What this DM did is the complete opposite of all of that. He was rude, demeaning, he clearly didn't care about the game. He interrupted the party and completely deflated what they were doing to have his own session in his head, fantasizing about a damsel in distress. The party is working with some eco-terrorists to cause a nobleman some money. The quests have gotten more and more edgy the longer it goes on. It started with sabotaging equipment, but now they're going to destroy some crops and cause a famine. This has some serious in-character arguments, which has been led by the druid player character. The druid convinced the party to help sabotage the crops by claiming it'll force everyone to move where the crops aren't failing. Till this day, I can't believe that logic was not questioned. The famine comes and people are starving, and some of them are engaging in cannibalism. So the party goes looking for this magical staff so that they can insta-summon crops for the next harvest. The entire party is having a debate about how liable they are, and the cleric is going through an existential crisis on if he deserves his power and if he's gonna go to hell for this. The session ends with them finding out the staff is being wielded by this tribe of priestesses who use it to grow their holy fruit. The party isn't sure how they're going to convince the priestesses to let them borrow their holy relic. The druid asks me after the session if I'm trying to make her look bad. She says I've basically made her decision come back and bite them in the ass. She goes on to say it looks like they're going to kill the priestesses, and if they kill them because of her decision, she's going to leave the game. I told her that killing the priestesses is not the only option, considering the party isn't a group of sociopaths, but she uses it to explain why she thinks I should go easy on her. I try to explain that this isn't a punishment, I'm just adding conflict so the story moves forward, but she says I'm causing her character to lose innocence. I tell her she isn't responsible for the priestesses dying in the hypothetical session that hasn't happened yet. The next session, the party tries stealing the relic, but they're almost immediately caught. They rolled not once for stealth. The priest is curious why they're stealthing something that can't be used for war. The party tried to explain the situation, and the priestesses send a paladin to use the relic, which would save the village from the famine. The party asks how they could pay them back, so the priestesses tell them that they could take care of the eco-terrorists and convince them to see the light. The druid player makes a face at this, so I call a quick bathroom break and text her to see if she's okay. She asks me why I'm so committed to making her look stupid. She sends literal paragraphs about how I'm undercutting her decision and making her character someone the group won't listen to. I tell her, I don't know what she wants me to do, and she sends an eye roll emoji as a response. After the session, she gives me a list of ideas on what could happen, basically making the entire village a bunch of bandits and cultists so that her mistake looks better. I tell her that that story has not been set up and I didn't plan to do that, and she tells me that she wants the party to respect her. I tell her I'm not going to do it, and she says it's okay if you don't want to, but she can't play a character they won't respect. I ask her what she had in mind for a new player character, and she looks really offended and just leaves. Honestly, I'm debating kicking her because I don't like the game she wants me to run. Ooh, okay, now this is interesting. So, I totally understand that if your decisions in character lead to negative consequences, such as a bunch of people in game dying or even a player character dying, yeah, you might feel a little rough about that. Because, yeah, I mean, even though you're making the decisions in character, it's still your decisions, and, I mean, those things are just going to be tied together no matter how you think about Dungeons & Dragons, even if you're really into your character. However, conflict and consequences are part of telling a good story. It's part of Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, what's the point of making decisions and having varying pathways if there's no consequences for what happens? My players in my campaigns have been wrong before. Very recently, our paladin Freya, she made a mistake. She trusted the church. She argued in the church's favor with the rest of the party. And well, the church turned out to be really corrupt. She didn't get mad at me because that turned out to be the case. She just realized that she and her character, more specifically, were incorrect, and we moved on. That's the way to deal with the consequences of your decisions. Accept them and realize that they're there to build up the story, not there to tear you down. Now, if you should kick them or not, I don't know. This is definitely a little bit toxic. Talk to them more, discuss this, and if they still aren't going to back down and are still being rude to you as a DM, they probably should go. This is from an online game I played in a while ago now. The party was pretty nice, with everyone having interesting but relatively grounded and low-powered backstories as we were only level 1. Except for General Dumbass. He was sort of a retired officer from a neighboring kingdom, which had fought against the one we were currently in and had been captured and imprisoned for decades, losing his skills and rendering him frail until he was released. He'd originally wanted to be a general, but the DM thought that was a bit much and lowered him down to a lieutenant. Despite this, General Dumbass would insist we call him General, or Sir. He said it was a joke, but he would actually get very irritated when none of us actually called him that. While he fancied himself a tactical mastermind, it would amount to little more than military jargon or terms strung together like during the middle of combat, like, we need to hit their core aft flank, and stuff like that. Additionally, despite being a Battlemaster fighter, I can't remember a single time he used any of the class's maneuvers. On top of this, General Dumbass would constantly try to tell us how to play our characters in combat, or insist he was the party face when he had terrible charisma, and then would get frustrated when we didn't let him do all the talking for us. He would complain that we weren't respecting his rank when he was a retired general who no longer had a rank. None of us were soldiers, especially his soldiers, and none of us were even from the same kingdom he was. We were tasked by some count to track down and scout out a suspected bandit fortress hidden in the wilderness where an organized group of raiders led by a bandit king were hiding and harassing nearby villages. This idiot demands a battalion of soldiers to command so that he can besiege this fortress, but is shot down by the count who says, 1. He's not going to provide troops to someone who fought against his realm in the past, and 2. If the situation could be so easily solved by marching a battalion off to attack the fortress, he wouldn't have called the party in the first place. Cue General Dumbass muting his mic while the rest of the party leave and start discussing possible plans. He would occasionally chime in to criticize or shoot down other people's ideas, but would offer none of his own, except to say bastardized quotes from Sun Tzu's Art of War. When we finally get to the fortress, we decide to scout it out at night with our elf ranger who had dark vision. While this is happening and the rest of the party is hidden, General Dumbass decided to sneak out in the middle of the field before the fort to start a fire to provide a distraction and draw them all out. The DM must have been feeling merciful because General Dumbass's silhouette wasn't seen by the bandits manning the walls as he stood next to the blaze he lit. This drew out some of the bandits who did what they could to put out the fire before it became unmanageable, but it put the rest of the bandits on high alert as they were organized and knew that fires don't just start by themselves, and that logically, since they hadn't seen any lightning, someone must have started the fire. This sent General Dumbass into a fury, crying that the DM was targeting him and not letting him play his character, and insisted that all the bandits should have just run out of the fortress to put out the fires so that he could sneak around them and single-handedly capture and apparently hold the fort by himself to show his skill? I guess the DM just got tired of this garbage because a patrol of bandits set out from the fortress in the general direction of General Dumbass and spotted him in the darkness because he was wearing heavy armor during the stealth mission. And after he tried and failed to challenge the leader of the bandits to a duel through these sendouts, he decided to face off against half a dozen bandits before him instead of just running away. We were all on the other side of the fortress when this all happened, and so couldn't provide help even if we wanted to. General Dumbass got overwhelmed and killed by the bandits and started blaming the DM and us for ganging up on him and not risking our lives to save a fellow comrade. After that, he left the call and the game, and that was the last we ever heard of that dude, who lasted all of 2 sessions. See, this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes players don't come up with a good plan, but in this case, the DM and the other players for that matter did warn the dude, so yeah, this is on him. Guys, it's not okay to go off from the rest of the party to seek out your own glory and try to spotlight hog. I imagine that this whole thing was just really awkward, not to mention a waste of time. D&D is long and life is short. Wasting time in D&D session just to fill your own ego is not a good idea. General Dumbass over here probably should think on that before wasting other people's time with his antics in Dungeons & Dragons. If you guys enjoyed this episode of RPG Horror Stories and want to let me know, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then please do subscribe to Crispy's Tavern. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. Not the best plan to let me know you made it to the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.